Hello, everyone. We are in our final week. And this week, we're going to be looking at multinational corporations, also called MCNs. So, these global giants that are known as MCNs, multinational corporations, they're not just businesses. They're key players in shaping international relations, local economies, and the very fabric of globalization. So, what exactly is an MCM? At its core, it's a business entity that operates in more than one country. Think of companies like Ford, Toyota, Shell, Microsoft, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Google. They have a headquarters in one country, but their operations span the globe. All right, that's what an MCN is. And these aren't your average businesses. Very large MCNs have budgets that exceed those of many countries. Yes, entire countries. And this gives them immense power and influence. They can impact international relations. Um, as I mentioned before, they can impact local economies. Um, and they're just the very fabric of globalization. So, what drives companies to expand across borders? There are several factors that play into this. One, it reduces transportation costs and distribution costs. All right, so locating production closer to markets cuts down on shipping expenses. For example, if we manufacture cars in, let's say, Brazil, then we don't have to, and we sell into Brazil, then we don't have to ship them from the US or another country into Brazil. So it reduces the transportation costs and it reduces distribution costs. You avoid trade barriers. So again, you've heard this time and time again. We have this current trade war going on because countries are shipping goods to America and the current administration is applying tariffs or taxes on top of them. And so if you have a presence in a country where you can produce goods and sell those goods in that country, it allows the companies to bypass tariffs and other trade restrictions, right? Um, there's the issue of different rules and regulations. Not all countries have the same laws or even customs, all right? And navigating these varying regulations and customs and cultures can be easier if you have a local presence in a country and if you employ local people that are familiar with the laws and cultures and customs in those countries. Also, securing raw materials. You can gain direct access to resources and new customer bases by having a presence in various countries. And last but not least, uh, cost advantages. So you can take advantage of lower labor costs and other economic benefits by having operations in other countries. It's no secret that many Asian countries and even some Latin American countries and other places across the globe have a lot lower labor costs than America does and other developed countries. Probably the most expensive markets for labor are America and Europe. All right. So if you can have operations in countries outside of America and outside of Europe, you probably can take advantage of a lot lower labor costs and other lower costs as well. All right. Um, so classifying MCNs by origin is another key area that I want you all to think about. So the approach to managing a global business can vary based on the company's origin, right? There's the ethnocentric approach, where home country practices prevail, with decisions being made at headquarters. There's a polycentric approach, where each subsidiary manages operations locally, and they have local employees in leadership roles. And then there's the geocentric or a global approach. And this is where the organization manages and staffs on a global basis recruiting its talent from diverse countries. And the difference between the polycentric and the geocentric is that polycentric is local employees in local roles, whereas geocentric hires folks from different countries and potentially moves them to other countries to be a part of the multinational corporation. Okay. The role of IT has revolutionized international business so much, and we keep hearing about AI, and that's going to really, really be a game changer. Technology facilitates communication, it streamlines processes, it reduces costs, it makes information really readily available, whereas that wasn't the case in the not so distant past. All right. You have electronic procurement, you have marketing and logistics. These are all made a lot easier through IT systems and makes globalizations and MCNs be able to be more successful and thrive. All right. Um, let's talk about the use of locals versus expatriates. And this is a strategic decision that MCNs need to make. And when we talked about geocentrism, that is, or the geocentric approach, that is where, like I said, you hire someone in, let's say, America, and you move them to, let's say, Japan to run operations there. That person would be considered an expatriate, all right? Um, as opposed to the polycentric approach, where you hire someone in Japan to run operations in Japan, all right? So this is a key decision and a very strategic decision that companies need to make. Should you use expatriates or local talent? And it really depends on the strategic goals, the costs, and productivity. Local staff bring knowledge of the local business environment, the culture, the laws. Um, but expatriates can bring specific expertise and corporate knowledge to the MCN in international countries. And then the other thing is the compensation for expatriates. It's complex and it can be a lot. All right. Key components of the compensation for an expatriate includes the base salary, but then there's a foreign service inducement, their allowances, and their benefits. And so companies must really balance the needs of the expatriate. Like, do you really need an expatriate? With the financial realities of the organizations, right? So MCNs are not without criticism. Some of the concerns that MCNs have garnered over the years are exploitation of workers and resources. So again, it's no secret. We've heard of some poor working conditions in certain countries where labor is pretty cheap. Folks having to work under not so ideal and inhumane conditions, and also having to work long hours. They're not being compensated a lot. Lots of exploitive measures can sometimes be employed uh, by MCNs in certain countries. So that's one of the criticisms. Job losses in home countries. So that's what the current administration under President Trump is trying to avoid. Because when we outsource, meaning we have our production in other countries, it creates jobs in those countries, but it takes away from jobs in our homeland, which is America or wherever the MCN is headquartered, right? There's tax avoidance. So you've probably heard about safe havens, where if a country is here in America, they have to pay specific taxes, which can be a lot. If they are headquartered in other countries, like Bermuda is one of those countries that are seen as a tax haven, um, they can save a lot on taxes, right? There's environmental damage, and there's also influence on local cultures or um, some of the other criticisms, right? So, MCNs are complex and powerful entities. There is no doubt about that. And understanding their motivations, their structures, and impacts, that's all crucial for navigating the global business landscape. And by balancing the benefits and addressing the criticisms of MCNs, we can work towards a more equitable and sustainable global economy.